The story of My Hero Academia follows one continuous line, a straight path from beginning to end, where the mighty Kohei Horikoshi himself weaves the story of a pair of prodigal students who are destined to clash with one another via a shared hatred on their path to becoming heroes. But what if their clash was earlier? What if their clash does not mean departure, but a union that causes our understanding of the story to be changed forever? New interactions, new events, and new outcomes, for better and for worse. I am Weekly Flow, and I am here to introduce a multi-part scenario in which the fiercely passionate prodigy blows the doors open to the coldest of hearts and potentially makes the most crucial decision in the world of heroes. Inasa Yaorashi is one of the best elite prospect heroes in Japan. He is known as the hot-blooded, exuberant, and behemoth of a 15-year-old who achieved the highest score in the UA recommendation exam, the top hero academy of the country. Here, we know he runs into Shoto Todoroki, the second highest score and the son of the number 2 hero, Endeavor. In their first encounter, Inasa recognizes those cold eyes and the glare of Endeavor in Shoto, but shakes it off in hopes of making a new friend at his future school. However, upon his win in the one-way competition with the ice user, Inasa realizes he can never be friends with a cold and spiteful person like Shoto. As a result of his interaction with the cold prodigal son of a top hero, Inasa declines the offer of acceptance into UA High and chooses the militant-style Shiketsu High in the West. Inasa's choice influences the availability of hero course spots and creates the cast we love and know to this day. However, as this scenario plays out in his head, "You're in my way," the two-tone-haired teen says as he bumps past Inasa and gives him the cold shoulder. Inasa reaches out his hand and squeezes tightly on the same cold shoulder that rejected him, in a firm, intimidating, quiet voice. "Then move." The angry Inasa spoke to Shoto. As quickly and as sharply as Inasa grabbed Shoto's left shoulder, a bright orange wave of fire flared out of Shoto's left side, but it was met with a strong gust of wind to put it out. Shoto snaps around, surprised, hitting Inasa's hand away. "Hey, bastard, don't touch me," yelled Shoto, stepping right into Inasa's face, staring him down. "Don't give out commands you can't back up then," retorted Inasa sharply, stepping his face directly in front of Shoto's, while heat waves started rising from Shoto's left side and gusts of wind lifted around them. "Hey, knock it off, you two!" boomed from the teacher in charge of the exams, both the two arguing, and the other 4 boys grab at their ears while President Mike walks up to the winner and runner-up. "What in the world are you two fighting about?" asked President Mike urgently and annoyed. "It's nothing," both boys said simultaneously as they both turned to look at who just blasted their eardrums. "I was just congratulating my competition on a great race. He must have gotten a little excited the winner acknowledged him," Inasa says with near unrecognizable sarcasm, masked by faux optimism, while pumping his fist by his chest in front of the much shorter and skinnier President Mike. "Whatever, I'm leaving," Shoto lazily but still angrily adds as he walks away from the teacher and winner. Inasa lowering as he watches Shoto walk away. He opens his left fist to see a burn mark about the size of a 1,000-yen coin in the palm of his hand. Inasa closes his hand lightly in a fist to avoid agitating the injury, while making sure his face doesn't show he just got burnt. "Well, let's make sure we get along now and to show good sportsmanship to our potential future classmates," slipped in President Mike to Inasa and Shoto, who's still secretly listening. Around an hour goes by and the recruited students are sitting together in a lobby waiting to be called in to have their interviews aided by their parents about their future at UA. Inasa sits with his mother to his left in the corner of the room. The room is set up in a U-shape with chairs around the perimeter of the room and chairs in the middle, back to back. Inasa talks loudly to the black-haired girl next to him as she smiles awkwardly trying to be polite. "So you can make anything you want? That's an awesome quirk. You should make a really big fan and we can see who has stronger wind." Inasa stops shouting as soon as he sees Shoto and his father walk into the room as the black-haired girl gets up and walks towards the doors. The father and son are walking directly towards him. For whatever reason, Inasa has chills and a bead of sweat coming down his forehead, but he sits perfectly still next to his silent mother. Endeavor sits directly next to the quiet woman. He turns to her and says, Hello, Shizukane. Long time no see. Glad to see you're having your son go to our alma mater. Do they know each other? Both boys think to themselves as they sit 2 seats away from each other. Shoto sitting with his hands on his knees looking to his left, away from Inasa, and Inasa with his arms crossed, hands in fists, looking forward past the gaze of Shoto and his father. What has it been? 25 years since we've last seen each other? Ever since you went mute after your quirk stopped working. Suddenly, Inasa stood up fiercely with burning rage in his eyes, standing only 5 feet away from the number 2 hero, staring him directly in the face. Endeavor only turning his head slightly to the right, looking up with his eyes at the large teenager. Don't you dare speak to my mother like that. Todoroki Shoto, please. Inasa stands in shock as he looks down to see his mother grabbing his left hand, pulling ever so slightly to not start a scene with the number 2 hero right before his interview. She notices that Endeavor looks at her son's hand and sees Inasa's burn mark on his palm. Endeavor smirks with annoyance, but with a bit of pride showing through. Shoto is already walking towards the office, back turned from Inasa and his mother. Endeavor follows. Do you know that woman? Do you happen to know that boy? Yes, I did. She was my junior. She was a class below me, but she was allowed to graduate early with my class because she was leagues above her own due to her incredible quirk, airwalk. It's a shame that her quirk suddenly stopped working. Her career was done after that. Good news for me, though. She was climbing the ranks when I was hitting my stride gunning for number 1. How compassionate, father. Yes, I know him. He tried talking to me during our exam and we had a brief confrontation. Is that when you burned his hand? What? I didn't burn his hand. Todoroki Shoto, Endeavor, please come in. Sorry to disrupt your conversation. The pro hero and his son enter the room as a tall black-haired girl and her parents are leaving with a packet in hand with the UA seal on it, excited as ever. The door closes and Inasa sits down, turns to look at his mom. He begins to sign to his mother. What was that? What just happened, Mom? His mother signs back. That was certainly odd, but that's Endeavor, or Todoroki. We were classmates at UA. Shizukane signs to her son hesitantly. I know you said you aspired to be a hero when you were younger, but stopped because you said you were quirkless. Does that mean you were a pro hero then? You said you don't talk because you got sick after high school. Is that what you meant? Your quirk stopped working? I don't know what to believe right now, Mom. The mother paused and looked at her son's eyes, then began to sign. I know this is a lot to take in, son, but please just listen. Everything I have done was to protect your future, and I never meant to lie to you, to hurt you. Yes, I was a pro hero, and I worked with Endeavor upon graduation. We were sidekicks to a top hero in my day. And 3 years went by and my quirk just went away. After that, I stopped speaking because I was so ashamed. But the being sick part isn't a lie. I did get sick. I started to get nightmares, and after I'd wake up from them, I couldn't breathe well or talk well. So I decided to not speak altogether. And then the nightmare stopped and my illness went away. I retired before the age of 21, and I settled down with a responder, your father. We had you, and here we are. The hero hopeful looked at his mother in shock. His whole world had been blown away. His mother was a pro hero. She was former friends with the hero who he despised the most. Inasa couldn't believe it. He was too stunned to speak. He couldn't believe what his mother just told him. Inasa looked at the floor and then back to his mom, fighting tears. Why didn't you tell me sooner? That you were a pro hero? That you went to UA? Any of it? Because I didn't want to stop you from being a hero. You've wanted this since you were a kid. I was afraid if I told you what happened, the truth, that you'd lose that passion within you. Yaorashi Inasa, please. The mother and son look at the doors to the interview room to see Shoto and Endeavor walking out. Endeavor's arms crossed, head turned back, thanking the interviewers, and Shoto holding a packet in hand with the UA seal on it. Inasa had lost his tears, left hand clenched into a fist, His mother noticed his demeanor switch from sadness and confusion to bitterness and anger. Shoto and Inasa didn't connect eyes, but they both knew one another felt their presence. Endeavor stopped and turned to look at Inasa's mother. "Let's hope to see you and your son again soon, float mouth." "Float mouth?" Inasa says under his breath. Endeavor turns towards his son. Shoto turned to look at his father and turned just as quick to ignore him, continuing towards the exit. Inasa noticed Shoto leave without looking at him even once. "Yaorashi Inasa, please." Inasa and his mother make their way to the voice calling them, to be met by an angry-looking blonde-haired man in all black with glasses holding the door open for them. "Please come in, Miss Yaorashi Inasa. Apologies for interrupting your brief reunion with Endeavor," said the white rat in a vest. "A rat in a vest?" exclaimed Inasa. "How cool!" Inasa's mother could only bow and wave to the principal of the school. "My mother doesn't speak with her voice. She signs, and when speaking to her, I only sign out of respect. I am so deeply sorry, but I request you do the same, Mr. Principal, Nezu. Principal Nezu. You can just call me Nezu, however." Inasa, still clearly shaken up by the bombshell his mother dropped, stands correct after bowing deeply, hitting his head on the floor. Inasa's mother pulls her son's left hand and signs. "Don't worry about them signing. My ears still work perfectly fine. You can translate my signing if necessary." Inasa signs in agreement with his mother's suggestion. "Please, take a seat. You too, Yamada. We first want to say, your son is an incredibly gifted young man. He scored the highest score ever on the quirk application race, shattering the former record by 3 minutes. Your son's proficient use of his whirlwind quirk is unheard of at this age. We've yet to hold the general application exams, but so far, we've only ever seen 2 other students display this level of mastery of their quirk at this point prior to admission. That being All Might and Endeavor years ago." Inasa reached out and squeezed his mother's right hand with his left, twinging slightly after being compared to Endeavor. "I've never seen a student so incredibly fast with a non-speed-based quirk, other than the Ice User Boy," Yamada blurted out suddenly. "Speaking of who, thank you!" Inasa shouted as his mother told him to thank them for the gracious praise. "As soon as my quirk showed up in grade 7, I've always had the hang of it," Inasa paraphrased for his mother. "Your quirk only manifested less than 3 years ago?" exclaimed President Mike. "That is quite remarkable for such a young man. Yet your physique would infer you're anything but young. Since we understand the language barrier and your straightforward plus ultra attitude, we'll skip to the chase. Yaorashi Inasa, you have been accepted into UA High Academy of Heroes. Congratulations." "All right!" shouted the fired up Inasa, looking to share the moment with his mother. He turns to see her on the floor, bawling her eyes out, overwhelmed and thankful that her son got into her alma mater. He kneels down beside her, helping her stand and get back to her seat. However, young Yaorashi will be on a probation and watch period until we see fit, due to the behavior of picking fights in the recommendation testing course. "I didn't pick a fight," Inasa interrupted Principal Nezu. "I was just congratulating my competition. Plus, that guy was the one being rude to me." "Don't fret, Yaorashi. We discussed this with young Todoroki and his father as well. Todoroki will also be placed in a provisional period for using his quirk against a student with ill intent. Even though you only went to talk to him at first and responded by grabbing him, you only used your quirk in self-defense before things got heated. Pun intended." Inasa looks to his mom with a worried expression on his face, his mother looking at Nezu. Then to her son, she signs, "Please do your best to make up with that boy and be the best student you can. For me." Inasa looks to Principal Nezu and President Mike. Inasa stands abruptly, slamming his hands to his sides. "I am so incredibly sorry for my behavior. I will do everything humanly possible to be the best student at UA. Thank you for this opportunity." Inasa slams his head into the principal's desk while bowing deeply, making a huge dent in the edge of it. "Wow, well, thank you for your sincere apology, young Inasa. It's always great to see our students exude plus ultra attitude. He's almost as loud as you, Yamada. Ugh. President Mike scoffs and pouts as Nezu smiles his way. Principal Nezu hands the son his packet with the UA seal. Inasa takes the packet into his left hand. His mother smiles and takes her packet from President Mike as she smiles at him. President Mike turns to Inasa and says, "Now, Yaorashi, I look forward to teaching you, but if you want to be able to hear, either invest in some earplugs or stop picking fights with young Todoroki." Inasa, fixated on the packet, looks up to President Mike. He shakes his head aggressively. "Yes, Mr. Loud Teacher, sir." "You can also relax on honorifics. Mr. Mike is good enough. We're not like that military school in the West." "Yes, Mr. Mike," shouted Inasa. Inasa and his mother both turn and bow to the principal and the teacher. The two staff smile and bow slightly as they watch the family walk out and watch the door shut. "Wow, is that really what I sound like?" "Pretty much, but 100 times worse," smiled Principal Nezu. "Now, let's finalize the preparations for the incoming applicants and their entrance exams." Fast forward to the first day of classes at UA. "We're doing what?" All of the Hero Corps students shout in unison at their bewilderment of such absurd quantities. That's right, you heard us. A quirk apprehension test. The tired-eyed, black-haired pro and homeroom teacher of Class 1A, Aizawa Shota. Erasure hero? Hero name? Eraserhead. Normally, I wouldn't follow Aizawa's methods, but I'm feeling different today, so our class is joining them as well. Follows the silver-haired monster of a man and homeroom teacher of Class 1B, Kan Sekijiro, Blood Hero. Hero name? Vlad King. Vlad and I talked before everyone's arrival, and considering the oddity of this year's Hero Course group, we decided to hold a joint quirk apprehension test. Aizawa shifted from a monotone to a serious and intimidating one. The purpose of this test is to see how true those entrance exam scores are, and to see who's fit to be here at UA. There is a catch to this test, kids. Whoever gets last in each class has to fight 1v1. Vlad drops the kid's jaws. The air suddenly became heavy, and the two classes standing side by side, next to their respective classmates, became more tense than the usual first day of school. That's right, winner gets bragging rights and to remain here at UA. All of the students gulped at what Aizawa was going to say next. They all had a bad feeling inside their stomach. Loser goes home and is expelled from UA. The students stood in shock, some feeling nauseous, some struck with fear. Others looked to be licking their chops at the opportunity to prove why they deserve to be at UA. Most are determined, even if uncertainty clouds their heroic futures at the famed Academy of Heroes. A blonde-haired man stands behind the building, observing the two classes from the shadows, and suddenly feels a twinge in his chest. He spots a tall, stocky, buzz-cut student in Class 1B. A thumping in his chest begins to pound, seemingly in a specific rhythm. It makes him feel lightheaded. He looks to his green-haired protege. "Stay strong, young Midoriya. That boy has something strange about him." And that is the end of part 1. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. Make sure to hit sub, hit follow, share this video around. It would help me tremendously. Just some context for this video and this kind of series idea. Way back when Marvel was doing their what ifs, we kind of got the notion and the idea of what if anime, and what if MHA was really interesting. And Vocal Pineapple, if you follow MHA, you probably know him. He made his own video about what if Shirakumo found Shigaraki instead. And it was really cool. So I was inspired. I made my own version, and here we are. So major shout outs to him. I even used some of his intro in my intro because I thought it just kind of fit the what if scenario. And you know what? I thought it was really awesome. I'm excited to see where this goes. Let me know if you want to see more. And yeah, I really appreciate the listen. Thank you so much. It's been Weekly Flow, and I will see you next time.